All right, guys. I just want to do a little update on Hurricane Melissa. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this info by now, but I thought we'd kind of get into the weeds a little bit and kind of talk more long form about this. So, obviously, this made landfall earlier today on the southern coast of Jamaica. This was a powerful, powerful Category 5 storm. This is the strongest Atlantic hurricane to make landfall since 2019. That was Dorian. That had winds of 185 miles an hour as well associated with it. But Melissa did more than just set records. This was a very powerful storm. We're going to know more in the days ahead. Again, I'm doing this on a Tuesday evening here, October 28th. Careful where you get your information from too. The next couple of days, have it from a good source. But the damage is going to be pretty significant, I think, once light is shed on the island nation. So, what's next? This storm, now moving back over open water for a short period of time, is right in between Jamaica and Cuba, and you can see the eye wall beginning to redevelop. And this is, when you look at the process of a hurricane, the intensification can easily be seen by a couple of things. Number one, you're going to see this really, really strong convection. So that's kind of one of the first signs we'll look at. So you see these darker spots here. That is really, really, this is infrared. So these are really cold cloud tops. What does that tell us? That tells us that we are really, really high in the atmosphere. This is when you talk about the structure of a hurricane, the higher up it gets, the colder the clouds, and it's essentially the exhaust for a hurricane, right? You got that air coming up into the center, it's flowing up and then out of the top of where that eye wall is, and when it reaches there, it's cooled, it's condensed. The higher that is, the brighter that's going to show up on our IR. But you look at just the last couple of hours and look at kind of that explosive convection you can see right around the eye or the center, and then boom, you have your eye once again forming. And this is a product that is, the storm being back over warm waters here. So certainly not done with this storm yet. You can see that there has been a general weakening trend with this. At one point, the stats with Melissa had this at 185 mile an hour winds and a central pressure that was near record levels. We'll talk about that in just a second. So what's next for Melissa? Again, this is headed right towards Cuba. Um, those familiar with Cuba, has a lot of third world structure to it. This could be very devastating, especially near the Santiago de Cuba. That's the southern coast there. The northeastern quadrant of a hurricane tropical storm is typically the strongest. Just to the northeast of center, has some of the strongest winds and most intense conditions within a hurricane. So let's talk about where this is headed. So this is looking ahead here to early into the day Wednesday. This is likely to strengthen back into a Category 4, likely weaken going over the island. The elevation of islands and just the overall presence of land will actually really disrupt the center, even just for a short period of time. We saw it with Jamaica today. The very well-defined eye and eye wall kind of fell apart a little bit to some extent. This is all relative. It was a very strong storm, but we lost the eye as it crossed over Jamaica. Probably do the same and weaken as it moves over Cuba, thanks to some of the higher elevation, the mountains that are there. It'll reemerge Wednesday afternoon over the Bahamas. And from there, this is going to race off to the north and east very quickly. Remember, this storm was moving like northeast at 2, almost stationary the other day. This is now going to accelerate very quickly. So Bermuda, to give you an idea here, I'm going to hop back into this and show you. It's right around here, St. George, somewhere in this vicinity. And this is going to be pretty close. There it is. Just barely got it within the circle. So that's Bermuda, and that's going to be the only other location. Now, there's going to be surge with this for sure, especially with this moving at that speed. When we talk about storm surge, That is the water. If you've ever squeegeed out a garage, we used to have this heavy rain. It would come into the garage, and we'd have to get rid of it. Right? It's just upwelling into the garage, and um, we take this squeegee and just push the water back out. A hurricane over water works kind of similar. The direction it's moving is upwelling or pushing that water in that general direction. If it's moving faster, if it's stronger, you'll see a greater storm surge. We saw some of the most impressive surge, with Katrina. That's what made it so devastating. It was Cat 3, but the storm surge was incredible amongst other things. So we'll keep an eye on that for Bermuda purposes. Outside of that, this becomes a fish storm, and we'll head very quickly off to the North Atlantic. And you can see here, this is the Canadian Maritimes right up along here. There's New England, Nova Scotia, and then all this area here. It's going to pass a good deal to the east. So that is good news. Unfortunately, the bad news, we're still dealing with this storm as it stands now. So what's after Melissa? Honestly, tropics are dead quiet. Don't want to jinx it, but this could end up being Melissa. It could end up being kind of the grand finale of the year. By and large, impacts up to this point were, if you could wish for an inactive year and a year where it was forecast to be slightly above average, I think you take this. So there's blemishes in every year, and we don't want to see any storms that impact land. But if this can be the final storm, certainly a good thing for the U.S. Not so good, of course, for those islands there in the Caribbean. So where does this stand up all time? This is interesting. You follow Phil Klotzbach. He's one of the smartest tropical meteorologists ever, and he had some cool stats with respect to this. So hurricanes' strength is denoted by the central pressure. All right, so that is how low. The lower the pressure, the more intense the low. Okay, we look at low pressure centers all the time moving across the central U.S. Those are mid-latitude cyclones, a different setup. There's a cold air and a warm air characteristic to this around the center low. With hurricanes, it's a warm core, so different structure, but the same principle applies. The lower the pressure, the more intense the cyclone. So you look at all time, all right? So this is 1900, but this is really of record. 100, I think we're at a total of about 300 and some odd hurricanes documented, and of all of those, Hurricane Melissa now ties the Labor Day Florida Keys hurricane with the central pressure of 892 millibars. To give you an idea, a lot of our low pressure systems in the mid latitudes will be in the 990s, 1006, 1005 millibars. This is an incredibly strong storm. It was an incredibly strong storm earlier today before landfall. But man, there's some context for you. The other ones of note, Hurricane Allen back in 1980, that had a central pressure of 899 millibars. And hey, Hurricane Gilbert, that back in 88 had a central pressure of 888 millibars. And Wilma still holds the all-time record, 882. So give it one more look here at the IR. Again, the structure redeveloping, re-intensifying. This is headed towards Cuba. We'll be there overnight, and I'm concerned. Daylight on Wednesday, we're going to see the kind of the full encompassing destruction of what Melissa has done over parts of the Caribbean. So that is kind of a look in a nutshell. Again, just wanted to sit down and talk about it. For those of you who wanted to stick around and talk more about the tropics, I love this stuff. Love having a chance to kind of analyze it and do it that's not in a way that's not TV and whatnot. So hope that made sense. Hope you learned something. Hope this storm will do the least amount of damage possible, but it's powerful, so you want to stay on top of it. Hopefully nobody has friends and family there. The Bahamas would be next up. Fortunately with this, at least a couple days heads up with that, so hopefully folks were able to get on out. So it's your update for now. Hope you all are having a great week. We'll have another update coming up on Wednesday and again later on this week. Y'all have a good night.